Jimmy Kimmel is back, and we will be reacting to his monologue after getting suspended for a week for essentially blaming MAGA for Charlie Kirk's death. We are going to be reacting to that. Plus, we got a couple other stories on the back end. We're doing things a little bit differently, which is going to bring you more targeted content to you, depending on why you subscribe to the channel. Whether it's news, true crime, racing, football. I'm going to do things a little differently, but still going to be a lot of the same stuff. So, without further ado, let's dive into this. So, Jimmy Kimmel, he is back, unfortunately. And you can say, oh, what about his First Amendment rights, his free speech? It wasn't the government shutting him down. It wasn't the FCC. It was the affiliates, the advertisers who were very unhappy with Kimmel. He was given time and time again to apologize. He didn't again last night. And this is the unfortunate result of what happens when you pretty much allow the inmates to run the asylum. And this is coming just I think it was a couple days of a leftist lunatic shooting up a studio and a drive-by style shooting, which the police let him go on bail, and the FBI had to go get him and bring him back in. So, without further ado, let's dive into this madness, shall we? So this is Jimmy Kimmel's monologue, back from his essentially vacation.
If you're just joining us, we are preempting your regularly scheduled encore episode of Celebrity Family Feud to bring you this special report. I'm happy to be here tonight with you.
Look at all the little seals clapping along. Holy moly, come on.
Please be seated. I'm not sure who had a weirder 48 hours, me or the CEO of Tylenol. It's been overwhelming. I've heard from a lot of people over the last 6 days. I've heard from all the people in the world over the last 6 days. Everyone I have ever met has reached out 10 or 11 times. Weird characters from my past. The guy who fired me from my first radio job in Seattle, where we are not airing tonight, by the way. Sorry, Seattle. His name is Larry. In 1989, Larry tried to force me to do a bit called Jokes for Donuts, where people would call in with a joke and I would give them donuts. I refused to do it, and then I made a lot of fun of Larry for suggesting it, and eventually Larry fired me, and I had to move back in with my parents. But even he wrote in to cheer me up. Thank you, Larry, and I want to thank everyone who checked in. I want to thank all week to all of them, but some that I do especially want to mention are my fellow late night talk.
And he begins. This is where it gets a little. Because some of these people we all know are, again, not good people. And we'll be showing that clip after this.
Show host, my friend Stephen Colbert,
who is losing $40 million a year and is going to be canceled at the end of the year.
Who's found himself in this predicament. My friends Jon Stewart, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, John Oliver, Conan O'Brien, James Corden, Arsenio, Kathy, Wanda, Chelsea, even Jay reached out. I heard from late night host in other countries.
Not gonna lie, I have no idea who like a quarter of those people are, and the rest of them have shown that they are not very upstanding citizens.
Countries from Ireland and from Germany. The guy in Germany offered me a job. Can you imagine? This country has become so authoritarian. The Germans are like, come here, come loose. My boy.
Okay, so the Germans, they are kind of falling back to their ways with the radical leftists with that, but yeah, Donald Trump, who had pretty much nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel essentially getting a week vacation.
Boyhood idols Howard Stern and David Letterman were very considerate and kind. And
yeah, you don't exactly want praise from Howard Stern, who has gone so far off the deep end that he lost his job.
I feel honored to be part of a group of people that knows what goes into doing a show like this. And I also want to thank all of you.
Clearly no research or truth. Who supported our show, cared enough to do something about it, to make your voices heard so that mine could be heard. You mean like the guy that shut up the TV station in Sacramento? That guy?
We'll never forget it. And maybe most of all, I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway.
I'm not going to defend a guy who 1,000% would be one of the people on my neck if the government were to come down on free speech under a Democrat. And on top of that, it wasn't the government coming down on Kimmel. It was the affiliates and the sponsors. But yeah, continue to lie, Jimmy. Continue to lie.
Oh, I never would have imagined, like Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, even my old pal Ted Cruz, who, believe it or not, said something very beautiful on my behalf.
Now, okay, so I get where Ben Shapiro and Clay Travis are coming from. I do understand, and this isn't so much of a knock on them. I absolutely love watching and listening to those two. But again, a line gets drawn when you are lying about who the shooter actually was of Charlie Kirk. And not only that, you blame it on the Trump supporters, saying that it was one of them. Even though there was all the evidence in the world to point that it was, once again, Democrat politically motivated violence. And you can go all through the leftist social media. Harry, Pac-Man, Aaron Parnas, go through them all. Oh, it could be anybody. He was a Republican. He had a Republican family. No Christian conservative is gonna have a trans, male, female, furry boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But they're trying to pass this lie off to you, expecting you to be stupid.
Hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what you
we
can
don't
and can't
like
say
what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like, that will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right. He's
Okay, so obviously, I haven't listened to the entire context of that, so I'm gonna be nice to Ted Cruz here, but again, he's a politician. But nonetheless, um, he there is the again his the affiliates and the sponsors were the ones pushing Kimmel out the door. And it wasn't until Disney bowed down to the left, once again, bringing Jimmy back so he can continue losing Disney $40 million a year.
Absolutely right. This affects all of us, including him. I mean, think about it. If Ted Cruz can't speak freely, then he can't cast spells on the Smurfs. Even though I don't agree with many of those people
I don't understand the joke there, but okay.
on most subjects, some of the things they say even make me want to throw up. It takes courage for them to speak out against this administration, and they did, and they deserve credit for it.
Again, the administration really didn't have anything to do with it. But again, he continues to peddle these lies.
That our government cannot be allowed to control what we do and do not say on television, and that we have to stand up to it. I've been hearing.
Well, when you have a when you have a license, then yeah, you're kind of beholden to the government and have a lot more restrictions on what you can and can't do.
A lot about what I need to say and do tonight, and the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.
And then you have the crocodile tears. He wasn't making light of it. He was blaming the MAGA left, or the MAGA right. The Trump supporters saying that Tyler Robinson was a Republican. And we all know that is complete bull.
I don't.
And then he begins these crocodile tears.
I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual.
No, Tyler Robinson had this thing well planned out. You can say disturbed. You can say brainwashed. You can say an absolute lunatic. But this was a well thought out, and he absolutely had help. That old man that was circulating hours after it happened, I have no doubt he was in on the whole thing. You are not just going to instinctively say, I killed Charlie Kirk. I did it on like a quick whim to help the shooter get away. He was there for a reason. And I think the charges were obstruction, some minor stuff like that. When he should be charged with conspiracy to commit murder and commit an act of terrorism, aiding and abetting assassination, stuff along those lines. The DOJ needs to go a whole hell of a lot harder on that old man.
That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who...
Now, here's the thing. Tyler Robinson, he is not that far left of mainstream Democrats. I mean, he is so close to the majority of Democrats, to the liberals, that they don't even have to turn their neck to know where Tyler Robinson is at. That's the problem here. We've seen the clips all over the internet over the last 2 weeks. People are cheering Charlie's death. They are celebrating, and they are rightfully getting fired for it.
Believe violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers, because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that.
Okay. So, I don't doubt that he gets some threats from crazy people. But it is because of the stuff that it is because of the calling Republicans Nazis, and calling it and saying how authoritarian Trump is, and he's gonna wreck the country, and we're never gonna get it back, and blah 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 blah, and all of the stuff that Jimmy Kimmel says, and all of the stuff that goes on CNN, MS Now, I think it's called. All of the things that they say, the Russian puppet, this, that, and the other, and continuously turning up the heat. That is what led to someone being so insanely crazy enough to take the life of Charlie Kirk, to take a shot at Donald Trump multiple times. It is that. The Republicans do not turn the temperature up. It is 110% the left. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's the reality.
Not subject. But I don't want to make this about me, because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Where all you do is parrot the Democrat slogans and parrot what the Democrats tell you to do, which includes lying. Outright lying. And all these people in the audience clapping, cheering, all mindless NPCs who do not have the brain capacity for critical thinking, because they have been brainwashed day after day after day after day for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And yes, this whole leftist derangement, it goes back further than Donald Trump. Donald Trump was able to get a little bit of the mask off. Now, Charlie Kirk's assassination took that mask completely off. And now the normal people are waking up to it and thinking, oh my God, how did we get to this point? It's been very, very clear since World War II on how far the left is willing to go. And it took Donald Trump sticking his foot in the sand and saying no. That was the first time that a Republican leader said no. It was Donald Trump. Ronald Reagan said no for a long time. And then finally, later in his life, towards the end of his presidency, he relented. And giving amnesty to millions of immigrants, turning California to what it is today. An absolute shithole. But Donald Trump is the one, for the first time since Reagan, where he said no.
I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with comedians and talk show hosts from countries like Russia, countries in the Middle East, who tell me they would get thrown in prison for making fun of those in power, and worse than being thrown in prison. They know how lucky we are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's
But you always say that your side always says how America is an evil place with an authoritarian dictator in Donald Trump, and yet you can talk crap about him.
something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Stephen off the air.
No. Here we go. Another lie. Stephen Colbert was not pulled off the air by Donald Trump and the evil authoritarian government. It was the fact that he was losing Paramount $40 million a year. That's not a way to run business. Losing $40 million a year.
And try to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is
No, it was the sponsors that were telling the affiliates no. And the affiliates are very scared of the temperature rising in the country. And I don't mean from a global warming standpoint.
un-American, and it is so dangerous. I want you to think about this. Should the government be allowed to regulate which podcasts the cell phone companies and Wi-Fi providers are allowed to let you download to make sure they serve the public interest? You think that sounds crazy? No! 10 years ago, this sounded crazy. Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, telling an American company, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and that these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead, in addition to being a direct violation of the First Amendment, is not a particularly intelligent threat to make in public. Ted Cruz said he sounded like a mafioso. Although, I don't know, if you want to hear a mob boss make a threat like that, you have to hide a microphone in a deli and park outside in a van with a tape recorder all night long. This genius said it on a podcast. Brendan Carr is the most embarrassing car Republicans have embraced since this one. And that's saying something. The FCC...
And again, and he just continues to lie and lie and lie and lie about how he got taken off the air. He knows damn well how he got taken off the air. But he's got to lie, because the narrative is more important than the truth. We've seen it over and over again. The narrative above all. The FCC didn't have time to do anything. It was the affiliates that said no. It was the advertisers that said no. We all know the government works slow as hell. You're telling me they were able to swing this in a matter of hours? This was in the making since Jimmy blamed Republicans for what happened to Charlie Kirk. That is how this all went down. And going from one lunatic to a lunatic that is in power of one of the worst states in the union, Gavin Newsom definitely not lowering the temperature with this with this little thing.
Fear that we will not have an election in 2028. I really mean that. And
No, you don't. No, you don't. We will have an election in 2028. You, Gavin, may be the presidential candidate. And if you are, you will lose to J.D. Vance. And it will not be close. And quite honestly, now I love Donald Trump. I like what he's doing with 90%. I like 90% of what he's doing. But I think J.D. Vance, he is going to be even better than Donald Trump. It is a it is a Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers situation that we have with this country. Brett Favre, he's great. He's a Hall of Famer. He has his flaws. But Aaron Rodgers coming in more tactical, more efficient, a little bit smarter. A lot more of a tactician. We will have an election in 2028. Like, there's zero doubt about that. Regardless who wins, whether it's Gavin or JD, come Inauguration Day, Donald Trump is going to walk out of the back of the White House, hop on Marine One, take it to the airport, hop on Air Force One, go back to Mar-a-Lago, and probably try to get a new another TV show going. But this is continuing to raise the temperature in the room. This is fear-mongering. This is how we lead to civil war. Right now, with all the violence that we've seen over the last number of weeks, we are headed towards, we're in that bleeding Kansas phase of the Civil War. For those of you who may not know, when Kansas became a state, everybody and their cousin rushed to Kansas to try to make Kansas either a free state or a slave state. And there were bloody battles happening throughout Kansas. And we're headed in that direction, and we've been in that direction at really full speed since the George Floyd riots. Even earlier than that.
the core of my soul, unless we wake up to the code red, what's happening in this country, and we wake up soberly to how serious this moment is. I fear.
Yeah, just absolute fear-mongering from Gavin Newsom. We all know the 2028 election is going to happen. This continues the lie that Donald Trump is this big evil dictator, and he's going to try to do everything he can to keep his power past 2028. Donald Trump knows this irritates him, so he just kind of pokes at him. Trump 2028, even though there is no way Donald Trump will be able to run for president in 2028. Unless they get an amendment to the Constitution to change that two-term limit, which isn't going to happen. So, yeah, 2028, come Inauguration Day, Donald Trump, he's going to be going down to Mar-a-Lago, and he's going to enjoy the rest of his life with his family. And maybe make a new TV show. Maybe start a podcast. He'd be a tremendous podcaster. Hopefully that's what he does, because that would be fun. But nonetheless, the fear mongering just continues on with Gavin Newsom. Gavin knows he's lying. I mean, let's take a look. Let me walk through all of his disasters. You have a homeless crisis in California. You're doing nothing to clean the streets. The Palisades fires, you have pretty much taken over those people's homes so you can change it into affordable housing. You have done absolutely nothing for your constituents other than put California in the midst of a living hell. That is what you have done. That is what you are going to be known for the decades to come, in the centuries to come, even if you're even remembered. Now, if you want to continue this, we have Keith Olbermann threatening the life of a conservative CNN commentator. Scott Jennings, you're next, MFer. And Keith Olbermann is a absolutely deranged. He's a deranged, angry old man who hates anything that is opposing to his worldview. And in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, and Keith Olbermann, he posted something here where Jesus criminy, this dude. I wish I had this kind of time to just post a bunch of crap. Let's see. Good Lord, this was only 4 hours ago? God dang, dude. Good Lord. How does one have this kind of time? Maybe he took it off. Huh. He might have. Oh, here it is. I apologize without reservation to Scott Jennings. Yesterday I wrote and immediately deleted 2 responses to him about Kimmel because they could have been misinterpreted as a threat to anything besides his career. No, Keith, you said you too. Has any conservatives been fired over the last 2 weeks? Keith? No. Did somebody get assassinated over the last 2 weeks? Yep. That was an absolute 110% a threat at Scott Jennings. Which, I don't know Scott Jennings. I don't watch CNN. If I wanted to watch something, if I wanted to watch a bunch of people BS in their way thinking we're stupid, then I'd just watch CNN. But the you too, implying that it has happened before. And quite frankly, Keith Olbermann, he should be arrested for making a threat, for sending out a death threat to another person. And he tries to cover it up, but he that was a moment of anger response. He had his phone on him, and so he decided to tweet that out into the world. And if you want to know the kind of person that Keith Olbermann is, let's see where it is. It says burn. This was after Kimmel got suspended. He says burn in hell, Sinclair, alongside Charlie Kirk and Matt Walsh, with the burn of the century. This is the most brutal burn of all time, courtesy of Matt Walsh. He says, Keith, you are already living in hell. Old, unemployed, irrelevant, fired from every job you have ever had, unmarried and childless, spending your final years alone, shitposting into the void, begging to be noticed. When you die, you will leave behind no legacy. There will be nobody to mourn you or even remember that you existed. Truly, I would rather be dead than live your life. I cannot imagine the misery you feel every second of the day, and you deserve it. Whew! That was an absolute roasting. A absolute 110% roasting. All right. And then we have Google admitting the Biden administration was pressuring, and Google caved to censoring conservative YouTube channels that did not violate YouTube's policies. From Virginia Cruda, from the Daily Wire, Google has committed to allowing all creators who were kicked off YouTube over so-called political speech violations the chance to return to the platform, and according to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Jim Jordan, that's not all. The tech giant sent a letter to Jordan and the Judiciary Committee on Tuesday, but the letter also included several statements from YouTube admitting, among other things, to the pressure from the former President Joe Biden's administration to censor certain political statements. Jordan shared screenshots of the letter via X, along with a lengthy thread detailing both contents of the letter and the Judiciary Committee's efforts to expose and put a stop to social media censorship. Jordan highlighted the key points addressed in the letter. Admits the Biden admin censorship pressure was unacceptable and wrong. Confirms the Biden admin wanted Americans censored for speech that did not violate YouTube's policies. Details when YouTube began rolling back its censorship policies on political speech after the judiciary began its investigation. States that the public debate should never come at the expense of relying on authorities, and promises to never use third-party fact-checkers. Warns European censorship laws targeting American companies and threaten American speech. Throughout the thread, Jordan continued to note what Google and YouTube were promising to do and make changes, including stepping away from third-party fact-checkers and adopting a community notes model similar to the one implemented first by X and later by Meta. He spent a considerable amount of time warning Americans that European authorities were moving to restrict the speech of Americans even when they were not in Europe. And European social media regulations were designed to impose disproportionate regulatory burden on American companies. The conservatives have been saying this for years, and I have seen it in real time. People being shadow banned on TikTok. I mean, you saw not too long after after Elon took over Twitter, now X, a lot of the conservative creators jumped in following and followers. A lot of them did. And on YouTube, we saw David Pakman starts crying on the steep decline of subscribers that he was getting on YouTube because they were bots. The Democrat Party, they canceled that subscription. And I mean, we see it over and over and over and over again. I mean, Tim Pool, he is reaching out to Google on trying to get some of his stuff reinstated. And he has, and we'll see how that all plays out. But I mean, you want to talk about First Amendment violations? I mean, this is a massive one. This is the government going directly after people who do not have a TV license, not on FCC airways. I mean, Jimmy can sit and cry about his First Amendment right being taken away. Republicans were cordoned off of the virtual town square. And Google has admitted to all of it. And from the pressure of the Biden administration. And I really hope that we get a name and we get charges brought up on this individual. This is an actual attack on free speech. Because this is directly from the government. And on top of that, we have seen that Donald Trump list Antifa as a terrorist group. So, by law, YouTube, TikTok, X, Facebook, they have to start pulling down accounts that support Antifa, that aid and abet Antifa. By law, they will have to start doing that. And we'll see if they cave, because this is gonna be a measuring stick. Google caved to Joe Biden's administration. Will Google, Facebook, and all the others, will they do the same? And with Donald Trump, they absolutely should, because it is a terrorist organization. All right. And then we go to the international stage. This one coming from Just the News. A death blow to globalism. Trump's UN speech set up a U.S. pivot. President Donald Trump's Tuesday speech to the United Nations and the General Assembly saw him extricate the international body as ineffective and forecast Washington putting more distance between itself and the UN. Good. We don't need the UN. I don't give a rip what happens to Europe. I don't. Now, I will preference this with, if they ask for our help to get criminal aliens out of their country, okay. Because they want to be better. And I can accept that. And I will be perfectly fine with us going over there to help them get criminal aliens out of there. Because of what many people have heard and seen, but not enough, of what has happened to children of the UK. You have Muslim groups kidnapping young girls, grooming them, beating them, and much, much worse. And governments in the UK whistle past the graveyard. We've seen it. We've heard about it. It's been confirmed. And that is the primary reason why I would be okay with it. Because these children deserve to be protected, if not by their own government, then by the greatest country on the planet. And that is what I believe on that. When it comes down to protecting children, then the U.S. should absolutely go in reckless abandon. If the government, if the home government is saying no, we flip them the bird and keep going in. And with somebody like Donald Trump in charge, they ain't gonna do crap. The UN is terrified of Trump. Because they know he will leave them out to dry. This planet runs through America. Every single move that happens is either accepted by America, declined by America, and if somebody slips through the cracks, we go and we finish it. Whatever conflict. And now, we have the left really wanting Palestine to be a state, even though they're not. They're never going to be. They should never be. But anyway, continuing on, Trump accused the United Nations of leaving the job of peacekeeping to him, highlighting the many global conflicts that he resolved in the first 7 months of his presidency. Among those, Trump managed to speedily resolve conflicts between India, Pakistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Rwanda, and the Congo. I ended 7 wars, dealt with leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal, he lamented. These are 2 things I got from the United Nations: a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Now, that whole escalator situation is... there needs to be a serious investigation on that. Because... that move there, if it was done intentionally, which it looks like it was, that is called freezing the target. Making him stop and stay in one place. Just long enough to get a shot off. Fortunately, that's not what happened. But it could have very well been a test. And the Secret Service, when something like that happens, is supposed to cover the president. They did not do that. And that is another issue in among itself. And now the teleprompter, that was an attempt to make him look bad. Obviously that doesn't work because Donald Trump, he doesn't like using the teleprompter. But yeah, I mean, it's like trying to mess with the teleprompter with Donald Trump is like putting that, like, a hair loss chemical in a bald man shampoo. Like, come on. The president expressed frustrations that the United Nations, under its current approach to global issues, was largely ineffective, saying that the organization had potential, but that it's not even coming close to living up to the potential for the most part. He further chided the UN for its penchant for writing strongly worded letters in response to conflicts. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war, he stated. Trump went on in the address, and he perceived to be failures of globalism and the myriad political project, namely the Palestinian cause and the international migration. In recent days, several European nations, including France and the United Kingdom, have officially recognized, at least theoretically, a state of Palestine, marking a pivot from decades-long policies of Western support for Israel. Trump himself insisted that such a move would prolong the conflict and reward Hamas, while he and outside analysts have suggested that those governments did so to quell the internal unrest. And that is correct. You cannot reward terrorists with a country. I know this is a hard concept to grasp for Democrats, but that is something you cannot do. Period. End of story. It cannot happen. And yet, here we are. You have the UK bending the knee to terrorists. You have France, of course, as always, bending the knee to terrorists. France was the one that fell in World War II. At least the UK stood strong. France folded quickly. And the cowardice, or the lessons that was learned from World War II in France, was forgotten. Because once again, they have bowed to the terrorists. That is Hamas. That is to the leftists. Trump went on to say, now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. Those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages. Several nations met in New York ahead of Tuesday's event as part of a summit to reaffirm the support for the two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict. No. There is no interest in a two-state solution. Zero. Palestine's not a state. You don't reward terrorists with a state. October 7th, 2023. Hamas went in and murdered thousands of people. Babies, children, mothers, fathers. For no reason at all. And now, questions absolutely need to be asked on how this happened. That is one thing that I'm going to start getting a little bit louder on. Because a lot of this looked a little too simple. So questions certainly need to be asked on that. But to reward Hamas with Palestine is only going to continue to encourage terrorists to continue doing what they do. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We end them. Period. There is no negotiations. Speaking on Real America's Voice Network this week, the Heritage Foundation, Steve Yates, echoed that sentiment and suggested that the generic nature of the recognition resolutions betrayed a lack of substance. If this was a matter of principle and strategy and substance, then there would be a way to define what territory we are talking about. How will this sovereignty be enforced? He asked. Do you have a common currency? What is the definition of the demographic mix of this land? There are a whole host of things that would be questioned. Almost every nation on earth, except for the U.S., Israel, and a handful of allies, recognize Palestine. But recognition as to what territory is part of Palestine and what groups constitute the legitimate government vary dramatically. Yates, like Trump, opined that the activity of the global community, including the UN, would lead to little way of progress on the issue. Holy cow, this is a long article. I didn't realize it was this long. I think doing nothing is what a lot of these governments do best. They will bloviate, and news cycles will move forward, and they will hope people don't remind them over and over and over again. And if you have a majority in your politics and your media and that have an ideological bent that supported the way this move anyway, they're not going to pick at that scab. But I do hope that there are some recognition of reality that is unlikely to actually work and do much good. This kind of public relations exercise that will rattle the UN General Assembly, is not really going to change facts on the ground, human on. Now, we've seen in the UK, it was like 100,000, it was a million man march style, hundreds of thousands of people going through the streets, waving the UK flag, the Union Jack. There is a nationalist movement growing in the UK. And they're going for it. And hopefully, in the next round of elections, the UK gets it right. Because their country depends on it. They do not have many more of these left. If they continue going the way that they are going. And they will make 1930s and 40s Germany look like child play. With what they are, with the direction that they are headed. And the scariest thing is, for me, as an American, is we would be right there with the UK had it not been for Donald Trump coming down that gold escalator in 2015. Things would have gone, we would be right on that doorstep. Donald Trump, when he became president, saved America. There's no two ways about it. He saved America. And his speech about about they're not after me, they're after you, I'm just in the way, gets proven correct time and time and time and time again throughout this decade of Donald Trump. It gets proven right each and every single time. Without fail. Now, into the other news that happened. Trump administration announces Tylenol may increase autism risk if taken while pregnant. So a lot of things that kind of get lost in this is, yes, Tylenol can be a cause. It is a higher risk. It is not the cause. There are many things that can cause autism. But from what Donald Trump and RFK have found out is taking Tylenol while women are pregnant can lead to a higher risk of autism. And that could easily be a cause of that. Now, if you want to, and don't just take my word for it. Oh, where'd he go? There he is. Don't just take my word for it. If this thing wants to load. Let's see. I wonder what's going on with that. I'll look into that. Good lord. I wish I had this kind of time to post like this. Like, this is insane. Here we go. Tylenol in 2017. March 7th, 2017. We don't actually recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today. There it is. End of story. I mean, and here's the craziest part. And this is one of the reasons why it's kind of making the rounds and have piqued my interest. You had leftists downing bottles of Tylenol because Donald Trump said it was bad. Bad for pregnant women. Like, how... Like the amount of Trump derangement syndrome is astounding. It is terrifying. It is scary. And you sit there and wonder, oh, how did this country get so violent? There it is. There it is. Every single thing that he said. Like, Donald Trump could come out in a press conference and he could say that the puppies are adorable. They are the cutest little things in the world. I love them very, very much. And you'll have Democrats out there putting puppies in sacks and throwing them down the river. That's how deranged they are. That's how crazy they are. Jack is so big. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so there you have it. The proof's all right there in the pudding. So, all right. I think I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any football, racing, politics, true crime. And we'll see you in the next one.